Hello everyone, and welcome to Katharine's Creatures. This is a series where we get to talk a little bit about and touch base upon various mythological beasts, beings, and the like, pulled from lore worldwide. And I always like to preface by saying that I'm not a linguist, so if I mispronounce anything, I do apologize in advance. And today I wanted to talk about Gogmagog. And Gogmagog is essentially this giant that comes from it's called the Matter of Britain. I actually had learned this one today. And that's the Matter of Britain is a body of medieval literature from that area. Now, Gogmagog, again, this giant, was supposedly an inhabitant of Cornwall, or at least the area that becomes Cornwall. And he's known for a specific scenario where he wrestles and is thrown off a cliff by one of the area's most famed heroes, Corinius. And Corinius is actually the legendary figure whose namesake ended up naming Cornwall. Cornwall comes from Corinius. He's also a companion of Brutus of Troy in these legends. Sorry, that's a lot of background information, but we're getting to it. So Gogmagog's stories later on do deviate a little bit from their earlier ones. They get expanded and give them a little more detail, but before I jump all the way to some of the differences, I'm just going to say that this character's original legend deals with him. It's actually written from a story about Geoffrey of Monmouth. Hopefully that's pronounced correctly. And he was thought to be one of the last giants in the stories. And this particular legend was originally written in 1136. So it's been around for a little bit of time. Now, in the original legend, Gogmagog was one of 20 giants who attacks a Trojan settlement. Yet, during this attack at some point, the Trojans rally themselves, and because they're fierce warriors, are able to kill all the giants but Gogmagog. And Gogmagog was essentially the strongest of these giants and was very terrifying. He was so strong that he essentially was able to pull up an oak tree from pretty much the roots. He has extreme strength. And during the skirmishes and fights, the Trojans are able to finally restrain Gogmagog and kind of bring him to their encampment where they pit their biggest hero against him, which is Corinius. And in this wrestling match, Corinius actually defeats Gogmagog, wrestles him to the ground where he breaks the giant's ribs. Thereupon, he tosses the giant over his shoulder, because again, these heroes and their superhuman traits is able to carry Gogmagog to the edge of this sea on these cliffs and just throw him into the water so that he hopefully drowns. And that's the original lore. Now, as I mentioned, there are later texts that cover the story and add and embellish a lot of details. So they're far more expanded, and you can always look them up and see the comparisons of just the very short, sweet, and to the point legendary story to where they have gone from there. In some of these additions, Gogmagog was described to be a descendant of Albina. He was said to be a chieftain, the largest of the giants, and again, was one of the giants that was found by Brutus of Troy, and when his men were trying to inhabit the land of Albion. And so there's a lot more details. And again, I'm not going to go rehash all of them, but I will say if you are interested in the lore from Cornwall and this giant or the heroes that are written about, I highly recommend it. There's actually a statue, one of two statues. There are two statues, one of which is Gogmagog, there you go, that are erected by the Guildhall in London that you can visit today and see this giant in a sculptural form. So he's been legendary and respected enough that he's been immortalized in these pieces of art since then. But if you have any questions for me about this or anything else, please post them in the comments below or reach out to me on any of my social media. And until next time, everyone, Skål.